tonight on Another Thing About Tartan, we are delighted to welcome Coinneach Macleod, who you may know as the Hebridean Baker. Through his TikTok account, Coinneach has motivated his followers around the world to bake, forage, learn Gaelic, have a dram or two of whiskey and visit the Scottish Islands, and has now gone on to launch his debut cookbook. So we can't wait to find out more. Welcome, Coinneach.
Balcha, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Well, I'm just back from quite an adventure, which I know we'll probably talk about. But it's great to be back in Scotland, Emily.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, so like you say, you've been a very busy man, having just launched your cookbook, which is called The Hebridean Baker, Recipes and Wee Stories from the Scottish Islands. So you were over in the US most of this month, travelling from coast to coast to promote the book. So I hear you got back just yesterday.
Just got back yesterday. Yeah, it's been an amazing experience. So I should say that my cookbook came out in the UK in September last year.
Okay.
And even though it came out in September, I actually ended up being the best-selling Scottish cookbook author of 2021, which was a phenomenal thing to happen. And 2 weeks ago, the book was released in America, Canada, and Australia. And so with the American launch, I did a 2-week book tour, starting in New York and went to, 12 cities over 13 days. And Emily, it was the most unbelievable experience. I'm still pinching myself how humbling, how wonderful. There was laughter, tears, hugs, everything over the 2 weeks. And probably my favorite part was not only how many expat Scots came to the events, but how many Hebrideans came to the events. Nearly every single night there was somebody from one of the islands, and even more amazing, cousins that I had never met, like real cousins, not like long distance cousins, like second cousins.
Wow. So that's amazing. Yeah,
it was absolutely amazing. So I feel kind of tired but completely energized by the whole experience. So can't wait to go back.
Yeah, well, so we now have our store in upstate New York, so in Albany. So yeah, I spent the first 3 months of this year out there helping to get the store open. So like you say, just seeing how many Scots there are and how many people who just love Scotland, it always takes a little bit of time to sink in, doesn't it?
It is. And I think now they say there's 25 million people in America that say that they've got Scottish heritage or a connection to Scottish family.
I know, a lot more than we've got here in the country.
Exactly. So I'm thinking of even maybe just 10% buy my book. I'll be pretty happy.
Well, there you go. I like your thinking. Yeah, definitely. And you even got to meet up with our good friend Kyle Dawson from New York City Tartan Week. So yeah.
Well, Kyle is my new hero. There's a wonderful Scottish pub for your followers. There's a Scottish pub in Brooklyn called the Iona, after the island of Iona in Scotland, and they do a Ceilidh session every Monday night in the pub.
Oh, amazing.
What a brilliant night. Amazing musicians. They even had me singing at the Ceilidh as well. And Kyle was there, the president of New York Tartan Week, and his partner Marty, who we were calling the first lady of Tartan. We were calling her.
Yeah. She's a very good first lady.
They're a great couple, and they're excited about coming over because they're coming to the World Pipe Band Championships in August. But very excitingly for me, they've invited me to go to New York Tartan Week next year, and it's the 25th anniversary next year. So they've got big plans, and I'm really excited.
Oh, definitely. No, it's one of my favorite weeks of the entire year. So yes, we'll look forward to seeing you there.
We'll see you there.
Yeah. So you are a huge advocate for the Hebrides, but which island in particular do you hail from, and have your family always lived there?
Yeah, so I'm from the Isle of Lewis, which is the furthest north of the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. I'm from a small village called Cremor on the south part of the island, actually closer to Harris then to Stornoway, in fact. And yes, born, bred, raised there, and my family have been there since the Vikings were there. So we are very much embedded into the island. And it's for your listeners who haven't been to the Hebrides, but maybe know Scotland very well. We are obviously proudly part of Scotland, but the islands are quite unique. We have a slightly different culture. Our landscape looks a wee bit different. Obviously, our language, the language of Gaelic, is maybe a bit different to the mainland as well. And I think the influence of, because we were part of the Norwegian kingdom for 400 years, that influence visually is still there for us.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting now, because of the last couple of years of lockdown, international travel has been a wee bit harder. So people are trying to find new adventures, maybe closer to their own doorstep. That the Hebrides are now becoming really like quite an exotic place to visit, because it is quite different. And
I have to say that's what I did say. During lockdown, I went to Skye for the first time, and to Mull as well. So not quite as high up as you are, but like you say, the island suddenly seemed very exotic.
And so that's something we're quite excited about, because people are discovering us maybe for the first time. And be it our, as I said, our landscapes or our history or our language, or we have a great food and drink industry on the island as well. I mean, who doesn't want to have some Stornoway black pudding for breakfast when they go on holiday?
Exactly. Well, like you say, it's just a unique part of Scotland that, everyone should go and explore. So, And you've gained a huge following on TikTok since your first post back in July 2020. So what was it that inspired you to set up the account?
I suppose there's two reasons. One, why I chose TikTok, and one, why I chose to be the Hebridean Baker. I think to become the Hebridean Baker, I'm very lucky that my mother and my aunts were great traditional Hebridean bakers. And it was just a few years ago, I was sitting, my aunt is 93 now, and I was sitting by her stove. She still bakes every day. Her husband is 95.
Wow.
And still goes fishing, still healthy as a horse. So I do think that Hebridean baking gives you a longer life, definitely. That's for sure.
That's the secret.
But we were just sitting by the stove, and she was actually telling me a story about her wedding day, which had been like 73 years ago. And the stories were wonderful, and what she was baking that day was great. And I just thought, it was at the time, I just thought, I want people on the island to know about these stories, just in case they're being lost. So that's when I found out about TikTok, and I realized it was a great way to get a message across that was a wee bit different to other social platforms. And doing it through the conduit of baking a cake, I thought was a really nice way to do it. And genuinely, it was so unintentional that this has become this phenomenon, because I thought, even if just people on the island would enjoy them, I would have been delighted. The fact now that I've had over 18 million people watch my videos is unbelievable. But
I can imagine, and so it really kind of came alive after Elle magazine called you a warm shortbread cookie just a few months in. So how did it seem to feel to see your wee kitchen become this international sensation?
It's funny actually, because I didn't know that they had written this article. They wrote the article, and it was, I remember, I think I'd made a video about a carrot cake or something like that. And the next day, suddenly I had like 30,000 new followers, and that video went huge. And I was like, look, that was a nice carrot cake, but it wasn't that nice, And then I noticed that every morning I was getting 10,000 more, 20,000 more. And I was like, what's going on? And then a friend in the US contacted me to say,
Yeah.
do you know you're in Elle magazine this month? And from there, I just started to get a lot of media interest. And honestly, Emily, the opportunities I've had from becoming the Hebridean Baker have been unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
I've been on This Morning with Holly and Phil. I've done Kirsty Allsop's Christmas show. I said traveled to North America, and yeah, lots of exciting things coming up over the next 12 months, which I can't wait to share with folk.
Oh, amazing. And I think, the platform has really given people with sort of specific interests the real opportunity to kind of to share those and find like-minded people, hasn't it?
Yeah, the algorithm of TikTok is either a blessing or a curse, because if you do accidentally watch a video about cats, then you're going to see a lot of cat videos
A
for
lot
the next
more about cats. Yeah.
But those who are passionate about Scotland, about the Hebrides, it might even have been that they loved Outlander or a particular show about Scotland. They've been kind of directed to my content.
Yes.
And I get so many people say, I just watched one of your videos. I saw one of your videos, but it made me watch the last 100 videos that you've made because of the content that I create. And simply my content is either traditional Scottish baking, or I do kind of classic recipes with a Scottish twist. But I also do Gaelic lessons. But to be totally honest with you, I think most people watch my content for Shorus, the dog.
Oh, yeah.
He's the real breakout star. I think I get in the way of his global stardom, to be fair.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you, after him being on the cover of the book, did he have his own fan group? So,
well, put it this way, so many people say, shouldn't Shorus have his own social media? And I'm like, no, because then nobody would follow me anymore. Everyone would like shift over. So Shorus is taking this very much in his stride. As long as he gets roast chicken, he's a happy boy.
Well, there you go. What more could you need? So, do you have a favourite recipe then, or are there any recipes particular to the Hebrides that we need to know about?
Well, I mentioned my aunt Bellac, and she features in the book. It's a beautiful photo of her. As I said, if I look as well as that at 53, never mind 93, I'll be delighted. And she's baking what we call a duff. And a duff, of course, in the mainland is called a clúti dumpling.
Yes, okay.
And in Gaelic, we call it duff. And that really is, for us, the most traditional of Hebridean bakes. And she said she's been making it the same way for 80 years, which is just an amazing thought. But I always knew that hers tasted a little bit different, because I said all my aunts made the duff or the clúti dumpling. And so I finally persuaded her to tell me her secret ingredient, which is in the book. And now I know it. I'm like, okay, I can taste it, which is fantastic. But the wonderful thing about a clúti dumpling is, so day one, for those who haven't had it, day one, you have it like just a slice of cake. So you slice it, you would have it with a cup of tea in the afternoon, served warm. It's spectacular. Day two, it's more like you would maybe have it as a pudding. You would have it with custard, after your dinner. Yeah. But actually, it's day three that it really comes into its own, where it's starting to get a wee bit dry, as most cakes would on day three. But we serve it as part of a Hebridean breakfast. So we fry it with bacon and Stornoway black pudding. I'm actually salivating even just talking about it. So that's where it really comes into its own. And so if you want to know if there's any single people out there who are looking for a Hebridean husband or wife, that is the way to
win them over.
Exactly.
Okay, there we go. Well, if there's a sudden influx of people coming to the island, then there you go. Lots of weddings coming up. Well, I have to say, one of my personal favourites is your Hairy Coo cupcakes. I might have to give them a go.
I absolutely love them to bits. That was a recipe from my goddaughter, Gabrielle. She loved Highland cows, or Highland coos, as we would say, of course.
Really
Or in Gaelic, bhòrd. That's what we call them in
Oh,
Gaelic. And so we created those together. And every time I turn to that page, it absolutely makes me smile. So
yeah. So is there a lot of family recipes then in the book? Sounds like it.
yeah, definitely. So I'm so lucky that it really actually, not to be kind of cliche, but it really was a family affair. The book with my sister-in-law, Shonak, she's half Swedish, half Hebridean, and an amazing baker. She's got a recipe in the book. My niece, who worked at, we've got a really famous bakery on the island called Stag Bakeries, and she worked there for many years, another great baker. And then just getting recipes from old recipe books. My partner Peter, his granny was a prolific baker as well. So she had a fantastic Christmas cake recipe that I took, her pancake recipe as well. So there's lots of recipes from just family and close friends. But added to that, there's a lot of maybe kind of classic recipes, as I said, that I've just added a wee bit of a Scottish twist, and I've really enjoyed doing that, because you just sit there going, well, I love tiramisu, but how can I make that Scottish? And you know, the default is often just pouring whiskey into it, which I don't think is a bad thing. So.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's got to make everything a bit better, doesn't it? So, yeah. And so what was the process of creating the book like then?
The publishers, they're a Scottish publisher called Black and White, publishing based in Edinburgh, got in touch with me. And the wonderful thing was, something I didn't know, that most cookbooks are 100 recipes. And they asked me to do a cookbook of 75 recipes because they said they enjoyed the stories as much as the recipes that I do. So they asked me to create a set of chapters, each one leading with a different Hebridean story. And also in the book, to have photography that is about the islands rather than just about the bake. And that's probably why I got even more excited about doing the cookbook, because for me, it really is like a love story to the Hebrides, and the fact that people can look at the recipes, but then maybe be inspired by the photography to visit, or inspired by the stories to maybe start learning Gaelic, or maybe, you know, at the back of the book, for example, I've got a playlist of Gaelic musicians, and I just imagine that people would say, "Oh, I like that song," and then they buy one of their albums, you know, because of it. So I do feel it's, even though it's me that's written it, it's really for the whole Hebrides to enjoy and benefit from. So.
Amazing. Do you feel like you've sort of become the unofficial tour guide of the island?
Well, you know what? It's amazing on TikTok. I mean, I do still try and commit to answering every message that I get. Sometimes it's challenging because I'm getting sometimes up to 4,000 messages a day. But I get a lot of requests of, where should I stay in the Hebrides? What are your 3 favorite sites to go and see? But fortunately, through this experience, I've got to know people who have little guest houses, particularly Gaelic speakers who, because people want to go, I want to be really immersed in the community when I come visit. And that's fantastic, because I can say, look, stay with Mags. She's a Gaelic speaker. She lives by the beach. She, you know, that kind of thing. All those things just, I think, add to, you know, when you go to Paris, you don't come home and tell everybody that you saw the Eiffel Tower. You tell people about the great French restaurant you went to, or you know, that little cobble street that you found that nobody else found. And it's the same with the Hebrides. People want to find that little bit that nobody else has found. So
definitely. And we've obviously been speaking about Gaelic, and have you always spoken the language, or been sort of both both languages, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yes, I was brought up in a Gaelic-speaking household, and yes, my parents did speak English as well, but Gaelic was very much the first language. And I must admit, Gaelic has given me the most wonderful opportunities. I think having a second language does that for everybody. You know, being bilingual or more does that. But with Gaelic, obviously, we only have 60,000 people in the world who speak the language.
Yeah.
And I think then as a result, being part of a minority language, it gives you a sense of responsibility to continue to not only talk in the language, but make it a living language. So, you know, when I do go to the supermarket, I speak to the cashier in Gaelic. When I'm walking down the street, I'll speak in Gaelic to people that I pass by in the street. But also, even when I was in America over the past couple of weeks, telling people who are interested how they could start to learn the language, be it through Duolingo or the new series of Speak Gaelic, which is on YouTube, or the wonderful Gaelic college on the Isle of Skye, Solmarostic. So there's lots of ways. In Scotland, you can learn. There's even a Gaelic college in Nova Scotia and Cape Breton Island. So folk can, there's lots of ways to learn. And again, as I said, because we're so proud of our language, we want to make sure that people see it as an accessible language for them to learn.
Yeah, well, so I actually went to a Gaelic nursery when I was really young in Fife. So it doesn't seem like the typical place you would have found one. And I really need to ask my parents, because this is just such a distant memory. But sadly, I can't remember a thing. But like you say, now that the language is on Duolingo and some of those other ways that you said as well, it's really exciting to see that there has been a bit of a resurgence, and it's definitely made me want to go and find out more. So
amazing. Great. Well, definitely, as we say in Gaelic, cumhorst, keep learning. Never too late to learn.
Well, that's it, exactly. No time like the present. So yeah. And so here at ScotlandShop, we love all things clan and tartan. And you're, of course, a Macleod, living right in the heartland of the clan territory. So this may seem like a very silly question, but have you always celebrated your Scottish roots and culture? I'm thinking this is going to be a big yes.
It is an absolutely big yes. And I think, I don't know about you, but because I know you were mentioning about you're going to Albany a lot with the shop being there. I think when I go overseas, I become even more Scottish.
Yeah, absolutely.
But 100%, yeah. So, actually, what was great fun, so on the front of my first cookbook, I'm wearing the Macleod tartan, but it's the Macleod of Harris tartan, or the hunting Macleod as we call it, because Macleod of Lewis.
It's very bright, isn't it?
Well, we call it the loud Macleod.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most people kind of shy away from the loud Macleod because it's quite a skill to be able to wear a yellow kilt. But I was so lucky that the team at Harris Tweed Hebrides created a tweed version of the Macleod of Lewis tartan for me. And I got it made into a kilt quite recently. And I've got to say, it's beautiful. Like I was very nervous, I'll be honest with you, but now I love wearing it and wore it all across America over the past few weeks. So for me, I said, I'm such a proud Scotsman, and any way I can promote Scotland, our identity, our culture, it's just a dream for me. I mean, I've done a couple of campaigns for Visit Scotland, and I'm kind of pinching myself sometimes that they see me as somebody that could promote the country. I mean, how proud am I to be able to do that? It's absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah. Well, and like you say, the Macleod is a loud one, but I have to say, it's one of our best-selling tartans in Germany, and we don't know if it's because the colours match the German flag, or if they just happen to like it. So we're still to get to the bottom of that mystery. But
well, that's good to know, because my book is getting translated into German this summer. So That's good to know.
It is, yeah, definitely. Well, and actually, like, I think once you've worn it that once and you're like, oh, yes, then, yeah, like I say, it's actually a very popular one despite being so loud. So glad you've embraced it. And so, other than the Macleod tartans, do you have any other favourite tartans? I know you've got quite the range of kilts.
Well, that's the thing. Being fortunate to be a Macleod, we obviously have quite a wide range of tartans we can choose from. But I was also very lucky to be part of another activity which gave us this great opportunity to have quite a unique tartan. I was selected to sing as part of Albany being the Gaelic word for Scotland, which was a choir that was selected to sing for Scotland at the Eurovision Choir Song Contest. And it was an amazing experience in Sweden. And they created a Eurovision tartan for us to wear, which was phenomenal. And it's this beautiful tartan of purples and pinks. So amazing that we had the experience to wear such an exclusive tartan. But I think because the tartans I wear are the kind of traditional kind of greens and blues, and then the yellow of Macleod, I'm often very envious of clans that have a really strong red tartan. I always imagine that I would love to have a really lovely red tartan. So McQueen, for example, and many others, that real kind of identity of the reds. So sometimes envious of those.
Oh,
what would be your favorite?
Oh, well, so actually my great grand who's Irish is a Wallace. So I often wear the Wallace. So very close to the McQueen with that bright red. So
so
I've got that one. Today I'm wearing the New York City tartan.
Which I love. I've got the scarf in that exact,
So I had this jacket made the first time I went out to New York City Tartan Week. And then for the store opening in Albany, when we settled on Albany as being the home of our store, a lot of the reason behind that, like you say, Alba being the Gaelic for Scotland, we were like, there has to be a story there. So it was named after the Duke of Albany, James Stewart. So we're like, okay. So we took the Stewart clan tartan and adapted the colours to take inspiration from the city flag, the county seal. There's a small kind of town that we're part of within the county. So colours from all of their sort of flags and seals. So getting to design that and kind of take that to this city that didn't have its own tartan and kind of show and share that with the community there was really special.
Well, that's really, really nice. And that connection we keep talking about between Scotland and the US particularly, but obviously Canada as well, is so strong and genuine as well, which is fantastic. So I already know I'm traveling back to the US for a very interesting event called Dress to Kilt, which is the New York fashion show in July. And then going back again to do some events in Las Vegas in September. So can't wait to see more of my kind of US friends when I'm, old friends and new friends when I head back over. So.
Definitely. Well, I know I've felt so welcomed there and continue to do so. So looking forward to getting back out there myself soon. So yes, hopefully we can meet up either side of the pond.
I would love that.
So do you have any sort of family Macleod heritage stories or what do you know about your ancestors and family history then?
Being a Macleod and being from the island of Lewis. So Macleod, of course, Mac, of course, as we know, means son. And Ljótar or Ljój was the son of Olaf the Black, who was the last king of Norway when the Hebrides were part of the Nordic kingdom. And Ljótar was given the island of Lewis to look after, basically. And so we really can look at our lineage all the way back to that era, which is about it started in 800 when the Vikings came. They left in the 1200s. So the fact that I'm named after a Viking who looked after that island. That shows how long the family has been there. What's really quite funny, though, is if you look at the word yacht in Old West Norse, the Old West Norse language, it's actually the word for an ugly father. And funny enough, Coinneach, which is my first name, is the Gaelic word for handsome. Okay, so technically my name means handsome son of the ugly father. Being called handsome, I think I did peak at about 2 days old when my mother called me Coinneach. I've gone downhill since then.
Oh, no.
My father, I'm not going to say he was the bros man in the on the island. He was quite wee. He was only 5'7". Luckily, I get my height from my mother. But to call him an ugly father is a wee bit harsh. But,
I was going to say, yeah.
But it's obviously the Clan Macleod is a very important clan for so many people around the world. And again, that was wonderful when I was in the US. Actually, when I was in Boston, we had a family, 2 sisters, fly from Cape Breton to the event in Boston, and they came in full Macleod tartan outfits, which was just like a dream come true.
I can imagine, yeah.
People are very proud. People are proud of all their clan identity, definitely. But I think because of the history and identity behind the Macleod clan, there's a lot for people to be proud of and to hold on to. So that's very special for me.
Yeah, well, when I visited Skye, I obviously went to Dunvegan and saw the castle. So yeah, unfortunately the castle wasn't open at the time with all of the COVID restrictions, but the grounds were incredible. So
it's beautiful. I haven't been invited yet to do any baking there, but you never know.
Yeah, okay, is that the next challenge then? We'll put a good word in with the chief.
Do that.
Yeah. So obviously you're kind of a bit of an expert when it comes to the Hebrides, and I'm sure you've been asked many a time, but do you have a favourite spot then?
Well, yes, I absolutely do. And of course, it's very easy to say are the beautiful standing stones of Coinneach, because they are so wonderful, and you go there and you can still be in the standing stones, which is quite unique that we're still able to do that. But there's some little hidden parts of the island that are still as special. And talking over kind of Viking past, only a few miles away from the Coinneach stones, you'll see a little sign for the Norse mill and kiln. And obviously being a baker, that's quite exciting for me. And they've recreated an old Norse mill, and it's fascinating. And just to see it beside the river or the stream, where obviously it would have turned the water to create the flour. All those things I found absolutely fascinating. And you feel like you're just by yourself in these wee houses or wee mills. So that's one of my favorite spots. But I have to also just do a shout out to my wee village of Cremor. There's a beautiful walk called the Cremor Walk, and it's only about 4.5 miles, but takes in just the most wonderful scenery. You can get views to the mainland, to the Isle of Skye on a clear day. You're going to see sea eagles, you're going to see otters, and you're going to feel like you're the first person to do this walk. It really is so beautiful. So there's a wonderful website called Walk Highlands, and that can give you information about lots of fantastic walks in the Hebrides that you can do as well. So, but I promise you, everybody will find their own story when they come to the islands, and I know everybody will love it.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, sounds like we need to get that added to our bucket list then. And so what's next in the life of the Hebridean Baker then?
Well, there is some really exciting adventures coming up, and maybe even some things that you might be able to sell in your shop as well, Emily. You never know.
Oh, there we go. We'll have to keep talking about that then.
Definitely. So a little bit more television coming up over the next couple of months as well. And as I said, lots more trips over to North America, which is really exciting. So it does feel, even though this was all unintentional, but it's exciting, and everything I get invited to is just so rewarding that I've got some really exciting adventures coming up. And if those of you want to keep up with my adventures, you can do that on TikTok or Instagram. They're both Hebridean Baker. And my book, as I said, is available in the UK, the US, Canada, and Australia. So you should be able to find it at most bookshops and online as well.
Well, and then you said getting translated into German soon also. So
I know, so exciting, so exciting. So coming to a bookstore near you.
Exactly. Sounds like it. Well, I hope everyone goes and gets a copy and gets to see all those family photos and recipes that you told us about.
Oh, thank you. And it's been such a pleasure to chat with you today. Thanks so much for the invitation. And as you say, can't wait to meet you in person as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And we'll keep in touch.
Great. Cheery.